Well, hello everybody. My name is Risa DiSano, and I am presenting my thesis on enhancing user experience in hotel lobbies through biophilic design. So the table of contents: introduction, research, solution, and conclusion. First is the introduction. The thesis problem. Creating a quality initial impression in the built environment is imperative to the human perception of a space. So research has shown that the lobby sets the tone for the entire hotel according to the user. So the user experience refers to the way a user interacts, feels, and uses a space. A lobby is the first space entered in a hotel setting, thus is the most important aspect of initial impression. A unique and memorable experience can be impactful, leading the user to have a positive association with the space, which is extremely important, especially from a business standpoint of the hotel lobby. You want your guests to be satisfied. Having that great initial impression creates a better experience for them. A quality first impression can be achieved by providing the users with an experience. Creating a positive and memorable experience for the users is beneficial for multiple reasons, including customer satisfaction, staff gratification, overall well-being, increased productivity, promoting excitement, intrigue, and as I had mentioned, business aspect of it. The thesis question I will be exploring today is, how does the use of biophilic design in hotel lobbies enhance the user experience? For my research methods, I conducted two primary methods. The first was exploring a literature review to study and examine the current information that's out there on this topic. The second was conducting interviews to obtain the firsthand information that's not available during the literature review. So filling in those gaps of the literature review. So let's start with what is biophilic design. In essence, biophilic design is using nature, natural elements, and natural processes in design. Biophilic design focuses on enhancing human experiences through scientific research to assist in positive outcomes in mental and emotional health. By incorporating the human perspective in all steps of the problem-solving process, this helps to develop the design solutions effectively. So biophilic design is an extremely human-centered design approach aimed at enhancing the user experience, aiming at focusing on the user. Some benefits of biophilia. So during my studies, I found a study by Browning and Francis, and they stated that exposure to natural elements reduce systolic blood pressure and stress hormones, and that's a proven fact. So other benefits of biophilia is it reduces stress, anxiety, irritability, and other mental health issues, and it enhances and improves mood, cognitive health, healing capabilities, productivity, social needs, attentiveness, heightened energy levels, job satisfaction, in addition to enhancing overall well-being. So those are just a few of the benefits. One of the main aspects of biophilic design is the 14 patterns of biophilic design. So this provides extensive opportunities for the successful design and implementation of biophilia. The patterns are, in essence, an informative plan, and they lay out a series of tools used for understanding opportunities with biophilia. So with the 14 patterns, there is an inclusion of the science behind each pattern, metrics, strategies, and considerations for how to use each pattern. So here I have included an example of what the patterns are. On the left are labeled the patterns. There's also 3 different categories. The first is nature in the space. So that means nature that you can physically see, or different aspects, maybe that you can feel, sensory things inside of the space itself. This chart shows the patterns, descriptions, the experience created, health benefits, design examples, and design considerations. So I'm just going to run through one of them, which is visual connection with nature. So that is essentially the physical view of nature, whether it be through plants or other elements like that. The experience created is it's intention grabbing, stimulating, or calming, depending on how you incorporate the nature. So since biophilic design is so versatile, you can have different experiences created based on how you implement it. So it's not just one experience, it's multiple experiences depending on how you decide to use the design. And then the health benefits, positive impact on mood and self-esteem. Some design examples could be a green wall, windows with views to outdoors, and the use of plants or flowers. Again, these are just a few examples. This is not the full extent, of course, but just to get a general idea. And so some design considerations is biodiversity over quantity. So just incorporating multiple different elements instead of including like just a ton of different things, like just make sure you're implementing it and not being like too overwhelming with what you're implementing there. So as I had mentioned, the 14 patterns has in essence 3 parts: technical, sensory, and visual. So this would be sort of the sensory or visual aspect. The next slide would discuss again, sensory or visual with biomorphic forms and patterns, material connection to nature, complexity, and order. This is called natural analogs. And then the last of the 14 patterns are nature of the space. So these are the more technical aspects, which would be basically how the space is laid out, different ways that you can design to promote mystery, refuge, risk, and peril, different things like that. So biophilic design is also technical as well as visual and sensory. As for the research agenda, I interviewed a lot of designers and architects, biophilia experts, to gain a better understanding of biophilic design, how to successfully implement it, and just like basically tips and tricks of how they successfully incorporate biophilic design in their designs. So the 3 most important aspects among the interviews were creating a mood, a transformational space, and a multisensory experience in a lobby. So by transformational, I mean, just imagine traveling after a long day. When you get to the hotel, you want the space to be transformational, so that way when you enter your hotel room, it's essentially, think about leaving your stress at the door. You want this transformational space to basically decompress and feel better as you're entering the space. It is also important to note that traveling is done for a variety of reasons. To create a successful space, the different reasonings for travel, in addition to the intended uses of the space, should be considered. So the design metrics for an experience. So additionally to the 3 main ideas I found, these are other ideas that are important to include while designing. So creating a space that's inviting and comfortable. You want the user to feel comfortable in the space. And again, like I had mentioned earlier, that the lobby sets the tone for the entire hotel. So by creating that inviting space and comfortable space, the user would feel comfortable in the rest of the hotel going through. Creating meaning in the space. So this means including aspects that are local to the area, history, or culture of this immediate surrounding area of the hotel. Using the 14 patterns as a guideline. So this is really important because when I say multisensory experience, it can often get confused with creating too many elements of the 14 patterns, which would create an overwhelming design. So it's important to use the 14 patterns as a guideline, not a checklist. To do a few things really well, it tends to be more successful than incorporating every aspect of biophilic design, which can create an overwhelming experience, which counteracts the reasoning behind biophilic design. Incorporating unexpected elements. This is something that's also key as well. Something that's unexpected means that it's something that's memorable. If you're not expecting something to be there, it often creates this like memorable experience and something to look forward to when you go back the next time. Cohesiveness and balance applies to avoiding overwhelming design again. So this also can refer to the interior and exterior environment. So the immediate surrounding area of the building, making sure that your space aligns with the exterior geographic location as well. So adding interest to the space, well, goes again with unexpected elements and offering a variety of spaces. This gives the user a sense of choice and control. Choice and control refers to allowing the user to pick where they want. So the user has the power to choose a space rather than have a space defined for them. This variety of spaces really helps psychologically as well. It's a huge aspect of biophilic design. So for my solution, My creative agenda is proposing a remodel of the Radisson Hotel lobby. This is the Radisson Hotel on Jefferson Road in Henrietta, New York. And again, this redesign is using biophilic principles. So here is the original floor plan for when the building was built. I placed a star over the entrance so you can see where it is. As you can see in this floor plan, it is very closed off. Since RIT has purchased the property of the Radisson, they have closed this space off almost completely. So existing currently is essentially just a long corridor. And this the space before, prior to RIT's purchase, had a lounge, a cocktail lounge, a dining area, different area, like a coffee shop in the back, different things like that. Now it's just a long corridor. So here are some current customer reviews, and these are actually of between 2018 and 2020. So these are all recent reviews, as well as a photo of the hotel as it was being run as a hotel before RIT purchased it. So one person said, a boring and sad hotel. Another person said, this is the worst hotel experience that I have ever had, and as a frequent traveler, that is saying a lot. And customer number 3 said, it was truly disappointing. So this is all specific to the Radisson on Jefferson Road. The next picture I'm going to show you is the existing conditions as of February. So as you can see, it's essentially a long corridor. They had closed off the entire right of the space to use as conference rooms. And then to the left would be where the hotels are, or I'm sorry, where the hotel rooms are. So here's just another view of the lobby. There's only one type of space in this lobby, and that is lounge seating. There's 2 seats and 1 table. That's the only experience or the only variety of space that's offered. Currently is just these 2 chairs. That's it in the space. There's no other furniture. There's nothing. This is it. This is everything that's existing there currently. So with the redesign, here is my redesign lobby. I had placed it in the floor plan. The redesign lobby is outlined in black. So with this lobby, I took down a few of those walls. There are still business centers and meeting rooms in the back, so that space didn't get lost completely. So I did take down a few of the walls. This allowed for an expansion of space, which allowed for so much more opportunity, especially with biophilic design and creating an experience. So here's just in a large floor plan. So by demolishing non-load bearing walls, the additional of useful space was acquired. So this newfound space was allocated to areas that would become a cafe, a lounge, a cocktail lounge, and a business center. So the variety of spaces now provide the user a sense of choice and control by offering accessibility to a variety of spaces with different atmospheres. So one of the main concepts behind designing this was, instead of creating one experience throughout the hotel, I created multiple experiences based on the room that you're in. This is to better understand the full extent of biophilic design and how it creates experience. So this chart is, this shows the different activity levels and noise levels based on space. So this was a strategic layout of the building and the spaces in there. So the way that I laid this out is an effort to create preferred environments with various moods and activity level. So the spaces that are the darkest are the highest activity level, which would have the highest noise. And then the noise pollution would be obviously greater. And then these areas would have higher visual distractions in these high traffic areas. So that's why the coffee shop was located closer to the front, as well as a informal seating lounge, whereas the business center was located in the back. So the business center was designated to be the most quiet, peaceful place, whereas the cafe was intended to be much more, or allow for a much more noisy environment. Okay, so for the proposed redesign, this was the before of the existing, and this is my rendition of the new lobby, so the entrance of the new lobby. So the relocation of the reception desk here, it was originally off to the side. I placed it in the center. So as soon as you walk in the door, you're welcomed by this large welcome desk. And this was to increase the biophilic design ideation of prospects. So just being able to see something over a large vista and understanding where things are is extremely beneficial in eliminating stress in this situation. So again, here is the existing of the reception desk, and here's the proposed redesign of the reception desk area. So the mood intended to be in this space is tranquil, pleasant, and intriguing. So biophilic principles include prospect, as I had mentioned, like seeing those long vistas and seeing that there's a reception desk there, easily identifiable. Biomorphic forms, so this includes the idea of the long elongated ceiling. And then material connection to nature would include the use of wood, and complexity and order also refers to the idea of how the wood is staggered, but then all comes together at the end. These are all biophilic aspects, and the experience that's intended to be created is something that's unexpected, multisensory, and creating interest here. I would also like to note that I have this rain wall off to the side, so you also get that audio sense of water flowing. So here is the lobby, the informal lounge space. The intended mood is cozy, inviting, and open. So biophilic principles, according to the 14 patterns of biophilic design, in this space include visual connection to nature, which would be the fire. That's a large fireplace. It's a dual-sided. Non-rhythmic sensory stimuli, thermal airflow variability, biomorphic forms and patterns, material connection to nature, and again, prospect, because the area is open, so you would be able to see all the way through to the front door. And this is a multi-sensory experience as well, because especially with the fireplace, adding that idea, you have the visual connection to nature as well as the thermal airflow and variability. And then with the prospect, you can also see through to the other room, and it also promotes mystery and intrigue as well, because you can see through the fireplace, so it might intrigue the user to wonder what's on the other side of that fireplace. And so here we have the cafe. I have included a floor plan in the corner so you can orient yourself as to where we are. So immediately entering, this would be on your left, or on your right, sorry. So the mood intended to be created was energetic, fun, and extroverted. So biophilic principles, there's a lot here. So there's visual connection to nature with this greenery wall I have. Non-rhythmic sensory stimuli, which would include just the use of the plants and how as someone walks by, they would move. So you get that little rustling effect of the leaves. Thermal airflow and variability. So in the back here, there are these nanowalls. So the nanowalls will open, which create that thermal airflow and variability. Dynamic and diffused light, as well as connection to natural systems. Seeing outside is a connection to natural systems. Material connection to nature using the wood, and that is natural stone. And then again, with prospect, with these higher seating areas, you're able to see farther distances, and this also accommodates multiple different types of seating in the same space. So there's high top seating, low top seating, and then off to the side, we have a lounge area, which I will explain in a minute. So here's just a closer view. So the experience created is supposed to be memorable, unexpected, multisensory, and creating meaning in the space. The use of wood is reclaimed wood. It's meant to be locally sourced through Rochester, so it's something that's unique to Rochester. So here is the cafe lounge immediately off of the cafe. So the mood for this space is meant to be low-key, calm, and secluded. So the biophilic elements are refuge, mystery, dynamic and diffused light, because there is multiple different types of lighting, as well as the nanowall on this right side that's not pictured. There's a nanowall allowing a lot of light in. Biomorphic forms and patterns. So the sofa that they're sitting on is meant to resemble pebbles. The experience created is meant to be transformational, unexpected, add interest, and be memorable. So on to the next space. This is the cocktail lounge. the mood for this space is meant to be relaxed, evolving, and to have the user unwind. So I'll explain evolving in just a moment, but some biophilic principles of this space is visual connection with nature. So I included the plants and in a smaller section here for easier maintenance. Non-rhythmic sensory stimuli, thermal airflow and variability, because this is on the other side of the fireplace, biomorphic forms and patterns. So I used different patterning here to give the indication of biophilic design, and material connection to nature, mystery, and refuge. So I had mentioned mystery and refuge earlier. It's based on the fireplace, the idea that you can see on the other side of it. So intriguing the user to come around and use this space as a lounge space. And then also this is carpet underneath the underneath these lounge areas to help with acoustics in this space. So this is the other side of the, if you were to just turn around, this would be the bar side of the cocktail lounge. The experience in this entire space is meant to have an evolving mood, transitional and multisensory. So by evolving mood, during the day, this space is meant to be more lively and a space where people can come and sit down and enjoy a drink. However, at nighttime, the space would evolve into a much more calm, tranquil environment meant for relaxation, promoting people to come and sit down and have a drink. Whereas the other brighter area is meant to create this different type of experience. So this is an example of an evolving mood throughout a day, and how lighting can affect the mood of the area. So as a conclusion, again, just a reiteration of my thesis question, how does the use of biophilic design in hotel lobbies enhance the user experience? Well, how does it? It was found that biophilia can enhance the user experience in a multitude of ways. In fact, the application of biophilia can provide the user multiple different experiences within the same space. The experience can evolve throughout the day and vary from other locations within the lobby. Biophilic design enhances the user experience by providing a multitude of health benefits, as well as adding elements to a space that evoke some type of response. So the three main elements that I'm referring to create a successful experiential lobby include setting a mood, creating a transformational space, and incorporating a multi-sensory experience for the user. These responses to these concepts can evoke positivity in a physical, mental, and/or emotional manner. So the combination of these aspects aid in the enhancement of the user experience. And thank you so much for your time today. If there's any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to answer any of them.
Okay, Terry, we'll open the floor up for your questions.
I thank you, Risa, for your presentation and your thoughtful consideration to a hotel lobby, which I do think is quite a challenging location. It has both functionality, lounge, and it's you really have dove deep into this idea of biophilic design. So one thing I'm just curious about is in your just overall motif and use in your renderings, they're beautiful, but you have a lot of different elements. You have plants, you have this circular motif, you have hexagons, you have sort of embedding, and I'm just wondering what your thought process was behind how much of natural elements versus motifs that you were incorporating.
Yeah, so I was trying to create a balance between the two. I wanted to incorporate both. So I think when a lot of people think of biophilic design, they immediately think of a green wall and plants. So I was trying to sort of alter that paradigm of having that be the general understanding. So by incorporating different elements, such as the circular elements, I knew that that was a huge part of biophilic design, but it's something subtle that someone might not consciously realize as biophilic design, but it actually is. So that's sort of the process of me understanding how to incorporate those different elements and those motifs as you had mentioned, as well as try to make them cohesive with the design. So I tried to stagger the use of linear elements as well as organic elements. So that way it wasn't an influx of just these like circular elements or things like that. So I tried to create that cohesive and balance, the cohesiveness and balance I had discussed earlier, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm just curious also because you have very designated spaces. You have the cafe, you have a lounge space, you have this sort of bar/lounge space, and then the office space.
Yes.
I wonder if it would have benefited by having just a more cohesive identity for each delineated space.
Okay.
So that someone like the cafe seems like it was very fresh and open, and the lounge was a little bit deeper, but there were some ambiguous spaces. And I'm just curious, you know, if I'm just wondering if there would have been more clarity to the motif and the overall mood if there was a little bit of the noise cleared out.
Okay. Yeah.
The other question, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think one of my main ideas was trying to create different experiences within the same space. So I think that's sort of where that came from, by trying to evoke different types of moods. So I think that's also plays a big factor in the reasoning behind that.
Yeah. I'm wondering too, I noticed that the flow sort of came in, you were walking in, you showed the different areas of how to get in. What is the navigation perspective from someone that either is new coming in to register for the first time versus a guest that has been there for a couple days and is looking for an experience? Is there wayfinding or a clear visual cue from the elevator side that allows someone to see where the lounge or the bar area? The bar area seems slightly hidden.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hop back to my floor plan for just a second. Okay, so the cocktail lounge is sort of hidden. The idea behind that was meant to be because of that mystery and refuge sort of aspect of biophilic design. So that was intentional, to have the cocktail lounge sort of hidden, in addition to privacy as well. Like especially in a hotel where there might be kids or something, it's kind of deter them from going into that area. They're more than welcome to use that area, but if there are adults drinking in there, it sort of adds that little idea of privacy. So that's why the cocktail lounge is sort of hidden. The wayfinding, I guess, was sort of used by color as well. So the cafe uses a lot of the greenery, whereas the cocktail lounge and the business center use a lot of the more natural colors, color palette. So wayfinding was through kind of color and materiality in this space.
Somewhere in your written manuscript, you talked about hanging chairs, and I didn't see that. I was missing that from the renderings. Do you want to point out where that?
So they're right here. There's 2 egg chairs here to create that experience. As well, I have these swings back here to help create an experience in the business center to kind of give people a little bit of a break from doing work. So I have 2 elements. One is the egg chairs, which are located right here. They're right in front of the window, so they're able to spin like all the way around.
Sorry, I can't see where you're pointing.
So. Oh, can you not see my mouse? Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, so if you're looking, I don't know how to use my mouse. What'd you say? Oh, hold on. Okay, it seems to not be working, but so if you're looking at the cafe, in the bottom left corner, there's 2 circular chairs. I'm sorry, I can't get my mouse to point, but
in the cocktail lounge?
In the cafe area, so right off of the entrance area. If you go down into the cafe, there's two circular chairs there. They're a little set back from the wall. Those would be the 2 hanging chairs I included in the cafe. And then in the business center, all the way in the back, like right under where it says business center, I incorporated these 3 swings to also give the idea of movement and provide the experience.
So yeah, I was curious why you put swings in a business center and not in a lounge. Was there a rationale behind why that might
Yeah, so in the business center, I was more to give the user of the space a little bit of a break. So I know that when I work, I need a break every few minutes. So it was sort of to give the business center this element of fun that you wouldn't typically see in a business center. So that was supposed to be an unexpected element, as well as the swings I really wanted to be like up against a wall. So the swings would be attached from the floor to the ceiling, so they wouldn't be able to swing fully. It would be sort of that rocking motion. I wanted them to be in an enclosed area to kind of control the amount of activity on them. And since the business center is meant to be sort of that like quieter space, it was meant to be more of that relaxing rocking than like super energetic, like fun rocking, like that kids might experience. So like that was the reasoning behind that.
So I noticed that there's a big shift from a hotel lobby as a hotel lobby with a lounge area, people waiting either for a cab or for a pickup or for a friend. And you've incorporated sort of this cocktail lounge, the business center and cafe. Did you do some research to find that that was beneficial to put right in the entry of a hotel? And were those typically at this Radisson in a different location, or were you just opening up the
Um,
access?
so both. So I did find it in my research that incorporating a cafe and cocktail lounge specifically, those were the two that were mentioned, that incorporating them right off of the main pathway of a lobby is beneficial to the experience. So that I did find in my research. As well, you had another part of your question, sorry.
No, I was just curious as to what the rationale was incorporating that in the lobby, like if
Oh,
you've done some research into what the general uses of a lobby, how people engage with it. I'll tell you the one thing this reminded me slightly of is the W hotels often put their cocktail lounges, or I've seen them in a few places where they're right at the entry. And as
okay.
a new guest coming in, I'm just wondering this juxtaposition between a guest arriving late and the cocktail lounge is going, how the noise pollution comes into the reception area or the experience for a really fatigued traveler that shows up after a long flight. Maybe it's an international flight and they're showing up at 9 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
What that experience is, because it's quite open that you have between the cocktail lounge and reception with this open plan fireplace, which is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I just want to go back to one other thing that you did mention a little bit earlier. So another reason I included the cafe and cocktail lounge is because it adds an element of food and beverage to a hotel lobby, which is part of the experience. That I also did find in my research that adding food and beverage to a lobby is really beneficial and it intrigues guests to come in. The other part of your question is with the cocktail lounge, I tried to have that sort of set back. So I think it's in my next diagram with the volume noise. So you can see this main path of travel. I tried to add this buffer space here of this informal lounge to I guess try to combat as much as that noise pollution. I didn't want to completely close off the cocktail lounge just because I didn't find that in my research. My research sort of promoted immediate visual access to the cocktail lounge. I do understand what you're saying though about that noise pollution for someone that is traveling after a long day. I guess my intention was including sort of this buffer space here between the cocktail lounge. So that was my idea behind.
Do you think that when the cocktail lounge gets crowded, I mean, visual is, I don't know if the cafe is open all the time, but if it's not open late at night, because I'm guessing people don't want coffee after 9 p.m.,
Yeah.
that the cocktail lounge crowd will spill out into the cafe and into the lounge area.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how had you thought about sort of the spill over, how that works when the capacity is at its limit and where people might move?
Yeah, so I did consider that. I guess it was more so what you were mentioning about the noise pollution. I think I got caught up on that a little bit more, but the spaces are intended for that spillage that you were mentioning, like for anyone to use any space. So someone in the cafe could go sit in the cocktail lounge if they had so chosen, like during the middle of the day or something like that. So that was an intentional. So I was planning for that, but I guess it's more so like the noise pollution, as you had mentioned, that wasn't.
So one of the things you mentioned in your manuscript was overall sensory experience, which I think is a part of the new trends in biophilic design. There's olfactory, scent washing, often at entries of hotels or retail experiences. And I wonder how the experience might be to enter in a cafe setting. I mean, I'm not sure if everyone agrees, but oftentimes cafes unfortunately do have a lot of scents from the coffee,
Yeah.
from the grinding, from the food prep. And I'm wondering if there was either scent washing or some way to block, I noticed that there's an entry right from the entrance to the right into the cafe, which is open and beautiful.
Yes.
But I wonder if that also creates olfactory pollution coming in
Yes.
your entry experience.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying there. I think one of my other main ideas of incorporating this cafe here was intended for people, sort of like a grab and go area. So if someone has per se a meeting at the hotel, and it would basically eliminate the stress of needing to travel elsewhere to obtain food and beverage. So instead of someone like stopping at a Dunkin' Donuts or something, they would have the cafe there, as well as it was open to the public. So that was the main idea of having the cafe like immediately off to the side. And I also didn't want to enclose it because I thought that would be a little, I think it would make the user feel a little bit too enclosed in a tight space, essentially, since I do have this area back here. So I guess the scent, I wouldn't be sure how to combat that with it being in this area.
Yeah. So I'm curious, in one of your manuscript research, you had mentioned that incorporating biophilic design, one of the challenges was acceptance from clients to invest in this type of approach.
Yes.
And I'm curious if you had given that thought of how you might, aside from the research saying that, it's a health benefit that people have a better user experience, what do you find is your solution to encourage or to convince a client that this is worth the investment, that there's a return from, there's either a fiscal return or a marketing return for their investment in this approach?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm really happy that you brought that up. So in my research, I did find that it was beneficial to companies for both marketing purposes as well as generating profit. So one of the things I did find in my research was that users that experienced or users that had an experience in a hotel, especially related to biophilic design, their results for user experience were, if I do remember right, I think they mentioned experience 17% more in their reviews if biophilic design was included. So when a hotel was biophilically designed, when customers were more likely to leave reviews and more likely to leave higher reviews, that also helps generate profit, because if someone's looking at a hotel review and they have really great reviews, it's talking about an experience, a great atmosphere, things like that, other customers are more likely to spend time there, as well as sort of budgetary wise, for a client to incorporate biophilic design. One of their main concerns is having this huge green wall that's a ton of maintenance and things like that. So the way I try to combat this in my design was by using those different materiality choices, the patterns, less conventional biophilic design things. Instead of incorporating large green wall, I had this sort of vine wall in my cafe. I had this vine wall, which would be very easy maintenance, as well as in the cocktail lounge, I had these small little parts of sort of this greenery. So the maintenance wouldn't be extremely costly or anything like that. So I think in my design, I went more towards the basically the unconventional type of biophilic design, which would be the patterns and the technical layouts and the things like that. So that was also with intentions of convincing a client, because there's, if you're suggesting to a client a different materiality pattern that's the same price, but it has all these health benefits and all these, different benefits for the user experience, I think that they would be more likely to do that versus incorporating this huge expensive green wall or something that's typical like biophilic design with high maintenance. So that was sort of my thought process, but it does, I did also, like I said, the user experience was mentioned. I believe it was 11% more or 17% more in customer reviews if a hotel had biophilic design incorporated in it.
I'm curious if you did any research to see if there are other elements that also increase the user experience. Is it just a modern approach, clean lines, better lighting? Are there other elements that also contribute to an increased acceptance or review for a hotel? I'm just wondering what other factors they might be considering. If they're opposed to biophilic or are hesitant for biophilic design, is it because they found a different solution that is equally beneficial on their return?
So I didn't find that in my research, if there was an alternate that was more beneficial for them. The one thing I did find was it was specific to green walls, as I had mentioned, that the maintenance of those were said to be really expensive. However, that is not always true, because there are a variety of types of green walls at different maintenance levels, especially the inclusion of something like moss is like hardly any maintenance at all. So what I found was basically related directly to green walls. I didn't really find anything else, like as you were saying, an alternative. I did not come across that in my research.
Great. Thank you for your work. Really,
yeah, of course.
Very captivating. The renderings are great. It really helps paint the picture. So thank you for your thoughtful consideration.
Yes, thank you so much for your time.
Mary, I think I don't have any further questions.
Okay, thank you, Terry. And we'll turn it over to Risa's committee, please.
So Mary, just to confirm the sort of process right now, we're general questions and then we're breaking out after the questions?
Yes, that's correct. We'll step out in about 10 minutes into our breakout room.
Patrick, would you like me to go first or would you like to go first?
Sure, go ahead.
First of all, Risa, nice job with the renderings. I really like your design a lot. I know we had a conversation the other day, and so I guess I'll point out the positives and then some suggestions. I think that again, as I said, I really like the design a lot.
Thank you.
But the one thing I would add is I would echo what Terry said, that it's sort of a big shift from just focusing on the lobby to redesigning sort of all the potential services, on the first floor of the hotel. So can you go to the picture that you have in the right-hand corner, sort of the new blueprint of the space?
Oh yeah, like the
floor plan.
The floor plan, thanks. Yep, that one.
Of
So, some comments. So I really, really do like it a lot. And it reminds me of a lot of new lobbies that I've seen. But let me start off with sort of the suggestions I think Terry was alluding to that would help. And then one that I think is quite important. I think looking at, because you've made this big shift from considering all this to mean the lobby, you probably need more research to sort of justify and I think you easily could,
Mhm.
that the sound and the traffic and the view and everything that's going with the flow does work. But because you've added it now, it's probably a little bit harder to sort of say, okay, because of the fireplace and the distance of somebody getting a drink over here, if you're at the reception with the water flowing, there's probably not as much noise spillover as one would think. So I think, like I said, I love the design, and I'll come back to what I like about it a lot. But I think just you probably need to have more secondary research to sort of justify maybe some of the space impacts on other space impacts.
Yeah.
If someone looked at this from a hotelier standpoint, space is about money, not just the cost to renovate the space, but can you generate money in the space?
Mhm.
One simple thing, and again, you're the expert in design, but I would make the business center probably a third smaller and push your cocktail lounge back, call it north on your drawing or up,
Yeah.
because that space generates no money and it seems awfully large in the footprint. But I like what you did with the space. I think making it much more of a fun, interesting, you might even have it so that the bar can serve both areas. So if I want to have a business meeting or work on my computer and have a cocktail, there's easy access to maybe the bar service, but that's a real minor thing. But I think if you researched these individual spaces, you would find that the business center needs to be the smallest space because it generates, very little to no direct revenue. And as you probably know, people prefer to flip it open their laptop in the bar or in the lounge or in the cafe and sit in a high top and work in those spaces too. So there's just less demand for that space, but you've made it fun. You've done some cool stuff with it, but I think your research would show it needs to be smaller, and offer some food and beverage there.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
think, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think one of my also main ideas is, since a lot of people are able to work from home, the opportunity for travel is there, as well as, I know that Patrick said that he's still traveling for work and things like that. So since it's a lot more normalized to work from home now, I think that was sort of the ideation behind that, especially due to COVID and things like that. But I do see what you're saying, that it does not generate any profit for the company. So I would definitely, in the future, love to change that, do a little bit more research on that.
I really like the open flow that you have between all the spaces. I think one thing to really talk about, we touched upon this a little bit before, is, as there's going to be lingering concerns for a while with COVID of being in enclosed spaces, I like the fact that all these spaces flow into other spaces, so you don't feel like you're in a box, in an enclosed room. So I really like the flow between the different spaces. I think it does a really nice job of marketing and showing the choices that one has as they enter the hotel or are checking in. And that leads to something, you did this much better in the past presentations. I think here, really going back to the specific experiences that one has, and again, originally thinking about the lobby, if I'm waiting for somebody, meeting somebody, waiting to check in, if you think about all the different experiences that one has with the lobby, I would make a better case if I was presenting to a hotel deciding on your plan, how these spaces satisfy those needs. I know a lot of times you're using things like transformation, intrigue, mystery, But I think in the past, when you were really connecting it to, maybe I want to have a private conversation, I want to be on my phone, I'm tired and I'm waiting to check in. I think making a tighter connection between what your space does to meet the experience that people need when they're, you know, in a hotel lobby. You know, just having all those windows and sitting there waiting in the cafe for someone that I'm meeting at the hotel, I can enjoy it, enjoy the outdoors, the natural lighting by looking out the window and seeing someone come to the hotel is a nice thing. You know, those benches that you put to the left as you entered, really connecting some of your ideas to the specific needs of a hotel guest would strengthen, and you were doing that in the past.
Yeah.
Here, you were tying it much more broadly to a designer's language. So I think that would just strengthen your, you know, your concepts here, which I like very much.
Okay. Yeah, my intention was definitely there. I think it was just the verbalization, because the seats that you had mentioned off to the left, those little alcoves, those were actually intended for someone, as we had mentioned before, like someone who is waiting for an Uber, waiting for a friend, meeting someone in the lobby. Those were just some basically short turnaround time seats for someone to just basically take a seat, wait for something, and then go. So the intention was there. I think it just wasn't verbalized as well.
You have all these service options going on right now, right? You know, I'm hungry, I want to drink, I need to work. And again, those are sort of services the hotel would provide. And again, I would go back to what does the biophilic design in each space specifically address for an experience I might want? Like I'm stressed from a long day's trip. I'm frustrated because my room's not ready. And again, I know you've done this before, but I think now, you know, where will I get that reprieve that you're intending with this type of design?
Okay.
So yeah, I think I mean, I know it's not a question, but I think just really tying in stronger the natural experience that's going to be provided in these different spaces, how it matches the experiential need that someone has, and all those different needs that someone would have in the lobby, like you've mentioned in previous presentations, you know, would help. But I love the design a lot. I love the fact that from many different spots around the reception and lobby area, you can kind of see what's available, but not completely, and have many options. You know, and I see this happening in a lot of hotels where hotels want the lobby area to flow into these other spaces to capture people willing to stay in the hotel, because staying in a hotel, you know, and even this hotel tying to, you know, the reason in the past it's, well, I won't get into it too much, but, you know, right next door, we have, you know, a retail space. We have, you know, Barnes and Noble. We have a lot of things that draw people to leave the hotel. So I think the hotel really under invested because of that. And you're giving a reason to stay in the lobby and enjoy the space, which is quite nice. So I would really, again, reemphasize bringing the outdoors indoors. So this is Rochester, right? And this time of year, it for many months, it's not fun to be outside. And I would reemphasize, you know, the feeling of being indoors with the lights and the wood and the greenery and the water and the sound of fire. You know, I would really emphasize very directly that natural space. But thanks.
Okay.
I know
Yeah.
using a lot of time here, so I'll pass it on to Patrick.
All right. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for your feedback. I really appreciate it.
Nice job.
Thank you.
I think I would probably reiterate a number of things that were just said, but I think one of the strengths in what I see in this design is that you could take off the labels of business center, cocktail lounge, and cafe, and it's just a variety of spaces for people to gather. And as designers, you know, we love to get the opportunity to do this. This was not the way that hospitality thought about doing a hotel, particularly something that's only really a low 3-star hotel like this hotel
Yeah.
years ago. But today it is. And I think Risa's had conversations with a number of us where we all reiterated that hotel operators and owners aren't doing this because designers think it would be nice. They're doing this to make money. This is about a business. And what they're trying to do is trying to sell food and beverage. And they're giving you free Wi-Fi in the lobby areas. So you come down and you do your work in the lobby and you get a glass of wine, you get a beer, you buy a coffee. I think, well, I agree that the business center as a use could be smaller.
Okay.
I also think about all the various ways that this lobby would get used in different iterations. And I think about my life stuck in hotels like this.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of meeting space that goes with this hotel. And I think one of the conversations I had with Risa is we're kind of forgetting how much meeting space there is here. So the meat and potatoes of a hotel like this is about selling those meeting rooms. And gosh, I wish I could have back the days of my life I've spent in hotels like this for building code update seminars and other various really exciting topics.
Yeah.
And there are hotels with no daylight, nothing to do. And what happens is every time they say we're going to take a break, everybody scatters, runs to their cars, and drives off to a Starbucks or something. And here, you wouldn't leave. You would stay here. You would get lunch here. You would get coffee here. You would maybe even have a drink afterwards here.
That's the intention.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have parents traveling to visit the college, university here. You're going to have youth sports leagues that are going to come in and take over the hotel for whatever 2 or 3 days of a tournament there is. I mean, that business center might be labeled a business center, but having traveled with my daughter for sports, I know that when the tournament comes through town, that business center is going to be filled with 30, 40, 14 to 16-year-old girls, you know? So I think that the strength of this is that it actually is more flexible than the labels show you.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think it's a lot more flexible than is what confined to the labels.
Yeah, I agree. And Risa, I think you did a very good job with coming up with these varieties of spaces. And you know what? You didn't add a single square foot to this building to accomplish that. You did it all within the footprint of the existing building.
Yeah.
And you know, it's very hard when you're talking about a student project to keep leaning on the business or the money side. But I guarantee you, there's no owner who would add square footage to the building and pay for that to accomplish this. So, you know, kudos for finding the space inside the building to do that.
Yes, I did not add any square footage to this. This was just all existing space. So, like you had mentioned.
Yeah. And I know we had conversations about how much biophilia, and that you couldn't really, you know, if you had a long list and you did do a lot of research and you have a lot of ways to incorporate biophilia, you couldn't do everything. It had to be pretty limited, and by and large, most clients nix it because they're worried about the budget and the maintenance.
Absolutely.
I think you showed a lot of restraint. In actuality, maybe you showed exactly the right amount of restraint for a project in the real world. Maybe for an academic project, you could have shown a little less restraint.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think, Risa, you did a very good job with this.
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
And it's great to get to the end and see a design.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a really fun project. I had a lot of fun doing this. I'm really passionate about it, so. Yeah, well, if you don't have any more comments, thank you so much for your feedback and thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Great job. Thank you.
Congratulations on getting to the end.
Risa.
All right, thank you so much.
So I would like to extend a sincere thank you on behalf of RIT's Interior Design Program to Terry Lee and our committee members, Patrick and Rick, for their valuable feedback. We are indebted to you for your thoughtful cross-examination of our students' work. I would also like to recognize and thank our moderator, Adriana Petrus, for helping behind the scenes. And we thank you, our audience and family members, for your attention and support. The committee and the examining scholar will now enter the breakout room for deliberations. I will assign us to those spaces, and this completes the final oral defense for Risa DiSano. You are welcome to stay on for the next presentation, which starts at 10:40. Thank you all for attending and have a great day.
Thank you.